Welcome back to Building Your Spectrum Life. You know, after diagnosis, you had that initial glow of realization about your life. You were super sad or confused or angry, and you quickly realized you had no idea what to do with this new information. Today, I hope to solve that problem for you by sharing my journey with the after diagnosis process and a workflow that I've created that helps me to make effective changes in my own life. Before we start making changes that are actually effective, we all need to have one realization. And that realization is you are the only one who can change your life. You are the one responsible for your own mental health. For me, this realization came while I was thinking about alone time. I realized for 2 years I've been trying to make changes, trying to get a schedule of when I'm gonna be alone, have special interests, focus time. There was no follow through on it. I couldn't make it happen. I was thinking about in 10 years, if my life continues going how it's going, I'm going to be way more stressed out than I am right now. I have nothing to show for it, in a sense. And that's when it hit me. My mental health is my responsibility. It's not my wife's problem, whether I get alone time or not. It's not her responsibility to make that time for me, it's my responsibility to make that time for myself. And I hadn't been prioritizing myself in that way. This realization was the catalyst for developing my workflow. Before we jump into the workflow, I want to say one important thing. This workflow solves the issue of trying to find solutions to problems in your life on the internet or through books that don't actually fit your situation. And it allows you to build the best solution possible for you. This is an action-oriented workflow. So we're actually going to be doing something. It may not be the perfect thing, it may not be the end-all be-all solution, and then we'll improve from there. Take some time, maybe an hour, maybe more. Sit down with a journal, a piece of paper, your computer, and actually go through these questions. If there were no barriers and you had your ideal world, what would your life look like? What relationships would you eliminate? What situations, events, stores would you no longer go to if you absolutely had the freedom to not do those things? After you finish creating this ideal world, I think it's important to look at how has my life actually been? What are the things in my life causing me stress? What are the things that give me life and energy and joy? Which areas of my life are draining? What are the issues with the current roles and areas that I'm in? And then lastly, I think it's really important to look at what am I good at? What am I bad at? So you have your reflection time all written out. Review it and identify 3 areas that for you would make the biggest impact if they were changed. After you've prioritized the 3 areas that would make the most impact, eliminate down to 1 area. Keep the other 2 in the bank because we're going to talk about those later. But pick one that you can focus on this week. You need to do 2 things with the area that you prioritized. One is make a timeline of I'm going to implement changes for a certain number of days. I'd recommend it being from 5 to 7 days. For me, that seems like a manageable timeline to make changes, but also be able to go back and reevaluate afterwards. The second thing you need to do is come up with an idea of what you can actually tangibly do to make that change. Maybe your prioritization was around energy, and so you stumble across spoon theory in your research. And you take spoon theory, you read about it, you don't know if it's going to be perfect or not, but it's something to do. So you take spoon theory, you decide this is the thing that we're going to implement this week. To review, we've reflected on our lives over the last couple of years. We've identified an area that we want to make changes in. We have some ideas about how to make those changes or something tangible to implement. And we've set a timeline for how long we're going to do this change. This next part I'm calling 3 stages of implementing effective change. The first step is implementing the change, is actually doing the tangible thing that you've decided on. One practical tip here is over the course of the 5 to 7 days or however long you're implementing the change, spend a little bit of time, maybe it's 5 minutes, reflecting on how that change was worked out the day before. What were the pluses and minuses? Were there any? Was it effective? Just spend a few minutes actually writing out your thoughts. The next stage is after your 5 to 7 days of implementing that tangible change to go back and evaluate. Set aside a little bit of time, maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on your situation, and Ask yourself a series of questions. Did this change make enough positive impact in my life for me to continue working on it? How much did this reduce my stress level? How much energy did this give me or take away from me? Was this change sustainable? How specifically did this impact my daily life? Did I get the result that I was going for, or a portion of it? Now that you've finished processing your week and how that change was implemented in your life, it's important to stop and take a minute and ask yourself, was that practical change effective? Was it partially effective? Was it completely effective and you'd make no changes? Or was it not effective at all? If it's the latter, discard the change and come up with a new idea to implement for next week. If it was completely effective, awesome. You found something that works for you. You found something that will make your life more manageable and sustainable. If you were in the "this change was partially effective" group, it's important to sit down and actually think about what are the tweaks that we can make to that plan to make it actually effective. And this is the beauty of this workflow. You are building a system for yourself. You are building a life for yourself. You aren't taking things other people say and finding them half effective. You're actually building something. Again, we're not going for perfection here. We're going for let's try something, evaluate it, make those changes until we get it right. The last stage of implementing effective change is to start the cycle over. You have your new plan, you have your new ideas, so you're gonna try them out for another 5 to 7 days. You're gonna journal about it at the end of every day. You're going to take an evaluation period at the end of the week. Sit down for your 20 minutes and actually ask yourself if these new changes were actually effective for you. The last piece of my workflow is, can I run multiple changes in tandem? So we have the one change that we were working on, we've evaluated it, we've made some changes to our plan, and we're gonna put those in place this week. Is it sustainable for me to also make a change in another area of my life? Sometimes it is. Sometimes I can run multiple changes alongside one another, and sometimes it's not. One change is more than enough. That's the question to ask yourself. Is it sustainable for me to also start looking at another area of my life? I have one bonus tip for you. In your journey with ASD, journal in one place. I've found it so helpful to be able to go back and review my notes from things I've tried in the past. Whether that is a journal for you and actually writing things out, or whether that's an app on your computer. I hope this workflow solves the issue of trying to find solutions to the problem areas of your life and allows you to truly build a life that you want to live. Thanks for joining me. My name's Logan, and this has been Building Your Spectrum Life.